Hello and welcome to this podcast, Little Girls Aren't Taught This. I am your host, Self-Love Lydia, and this is a self-love podcast unlike no other. Within this podcast, we will go into all of the things that we should have been taught as little girls that would have helped us feel empowered, connected, and just unapologetic as we grew into women. I am the queen of deep transformations. I am on a mission to impact women around the world with self-love, and I am here to teach you how to be unapologetic and just step into your power. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of Little Girls Aren't Taught This. So this week we are delving into all things solo travel. Now, I asked you on Instagram, what are some topics that you want me to talk through in the podcast? And somebody asked for an episode around solo travel as a female, my top tips, and just to talk through any anxieties or fears that I have. Because I think wanting to go traveling or wanting to go somewhere on your own is something a lot of us will be able to resonate, or a lot of you listening will be able to resonate with. Maybe you've always wanted to go somewhere, or even something so simple as wanting to go somewhere within the UK, stay in a hotel on your own, do something on your own, even if it's not going to the other side of the world. But maybe for a lot of you, you have this desire inside of you to come to Bali, to travel, to grab your backpack, to explore the world. And this episode, I'm just going to be talking through my tips to do that, and coming from it from somebody in a relationship as well, which I think is really refreshing, because one of the biggest things that I know from speaking to a lot of women is that they feel like they could never possibly go traveling because they're in a relationship. So for a lot of us, it's like when we get into a relationship, almost like our sense of self and identity and everything that we want to do becomes merged with our partner. And all of a sudden this guilt comes for wanting to do things on our own, even wanting to stay in a hotel on your own, wanting to go and have some time and explore and travel and do those things that feel really good for you, that you've always desired to do, and not waiting on your partner or not waiting on your partner's permission to be able to do these things and see the world and live your life. So I'm going to give some tips around my perspective of being in a relationship and traveling as well, because it's so important for me. And I know it's something that not maybe a lot of people feel like they are able to do. So let's just jump straight into it. So some of my tips around solo traveling as a woman. So what's really nice and interesting is this time 4 years ago, I was in Vietnam. So I keep getting flashbacks on my phone, on my highlights of me in Ho Chi Minh City. It was just my backpack. I was out exploring. I was staying in hostels. And when I say it was like one of the best times of my life, it was incredible. So I packed a backpack. I got a one-way flight to Southeast Asia, and I landed in Cambodia. And I done Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Bali, and Thailand in 3 months. And what was really nice is I was with Luke at that time, so I was in a relationship. So both times I've traveled, I've been in a relationship. It just so happens that the universe brought me a relationship around the same time that I created this life online where I had a business and I could work from anywhere in the world. So that for me, is why it's really being important for me to not compromise on certain parts and certain things that I want to do, because when I took risks and when I really wanted to create this life where I had an online business, part of that was being able to travel, and obviously COVID took that away. So it's just about making the most of it. So it's really nice that 4 years ago I was also traveling. It feels super nice. So first tip I've got about traveling as a solo woman is please do your research before you travel. So I have these tips written on my phone. Do your research, because what's really important is for you to do the things that you can to minimize that anxiety or whatever fear is coming up for you around traveling. So if you feel that you're worried about being on your own, or you're worried about what's going to happen when you get off the plane, you're worried about just being alone, then please do your research. If you want to feel safe, if you want to reduce any anxieties or any fears, I always say just having some form of plan when you get off that plane really helps soothe you and ground you, because when you get off that flight, especially if you're coming to somewhere like Southeast Asia, it's a long flight. It's 19 hours to Bali, and it's around 19, 20, around that time frame if you're going to Cambodia, Thailand, all of these places. And usually it requires a stop off. So it is a long travel. So when you do your research, what I would always say is go to places that are made for backpackers and go to places that are made for travelers. Okay, so places like Cambodia, places like Vietnam, even Bali, it is incredible for backpackers. It's incredible for solo travelers. There is many routes that are kind of carved out that you can take. So in Vietnam, you can go down the whole of the coast of the country, and it's really set up with hostels along the way. It's set up with travel, coaches, all of these things, so you're able to get around. So I would really look into that. Even if you're going to Europe, okay, even if you're going to somewhere that's closer to home for you, just do your research and just look into where are really nice places that you can stay that will allow you to feel safe, that you can meet people, that you can get about easy, that you know there's going to be somewhere where somebody speaks minimal English, somewhere that if you know you have a problem or you need to ask a question, you're able to find somebody and go to that person and ask them. And that is going to help you a lot. And one of the reasons also why I think it's important is because there's a lot of remote places in countries like Asia, Indonesia. There's a lot of places that are very remote, and it's when you go into those remote places it gets really remote, because you know it's the local spots, it's the local parts of the country. So when you research what hostels you're staying in and what route you're going to take and even places to eat, all of these things, you start to develop a list and it makes you feel more excited. So what it does is it shifts that anxiety into excitement and you feel like you have some form of loose plan. I think as well, making sure that it's functional for traveling, making sure that you feel safe. So do your research and look at hostels, look at reviews specifically from solo travelers. How did they feel staying there? Did they feel safe? Was their stuff safe? All of that stuff. So when I came to Bali, one of the things that I made sure I looked on in reviews was solo traveler reviews. So women staying on their own in those places, how did they feel? Did they feel safe? And one of the really beautiful things is, for my time in Asia, for my time in Indonesia, honestly, I've never felt anything but safe. There was literally one time when I was traveling in Cambodia, I think it was, or maybe Laos, and partly that was my fault as well because I was out after dark. I was on these really rural back roads and it was super fucking scary because there was someone like following me, and I take responsibility for that because I know better than to do that. I know better than to be on a fucking rural road in the middle of Laos, in the middle of nowhere with no phone signal, just on a scooter late at night. So that was my own fault. But apart from that, I've never felt unsafe even going out. I feel so safe over here, more so than if I'm in England. I'll go out late at night, I'll be just scooting around on my bike, I'll be sitting in coffee shops, maybe I'll walk the shop, because the places that I usually stay, it's always bustling, it's always quite busy, there's always people walking around. So it just means that I feel really safe. And even in places like Ubud, where it's a lot quieter, so when I'm walking from like the yoga barn to go and get my bike, I feel super safe because there's just something about the culture and the people, and it's really beautiful. And it's really interesting that I feel a lot safer than I actually do at home in England. So wherever you go, just make sure you do your research so you don't end up in the middle of nowhere and somewhere inaccessible. That's important. Or if you're wanting to travel, like me, I want to travel and work on this holiday. I am doing that. And I don't want to be in hostels, or I don't want to be in environments where there's people coming in late at night. There's loud people, they accept parties, they accept groups. So for me, what I've really done my research to find is places that are made for single people or couples, really. And just taken a lot of time to do that research. So it means every place I've stayed in has served my needs absolutely perfectly. I've slept well, there's been no complaints. I've made sure I've had good Wi-Fi in all the spaces that I've stayed in. So again, it's just looking into these things to know that where you're staying is ticking all the boxes that you need in order to stay there. And one of the other little things I'm just going to share this around, because this is something that's so important for me, and it might be so silly given where I am. I'm in Indonesia, but you know that I'm terrified of bugs. Bugs, not so much, but spiders. I have like huge arachnophobia. So every single day being in Bali, like I am pushing myself out my comfort zone, because obviously I'm in the jungle. There's bugs and all of these things everywhere. So one of the things that I also look on reviews for is, you know, how clean was it? I will just type in like bugs or spiders, and I will make sure the rooms say that there's nothing, because, you know, you can go to some places in Indonesia, in Asia, that are, you know, have cockroaches, are moldy, aren't that clean. And for me, it's just really important to know that there's that element of reassurance. And one of the other things I also do is when I check into a space, usually I'm staying in homestays, so I would recommend staying in homestays or hostels if you're traveling alone. And I will just speak to the people who are here, and I will just say, I have a fear. I'm scared of spiders. It's like an arachnophobia. If there's one in my bedroom, am I okay to please knock? And do you mind coming in and helping me? Or I'll just say to the staff, and the staff who work here, the people who I have met in Indonesia are so nice. And I find that people are so friendly, people are so open, people are so nice. They'll be like, just knock if you need anything. And that instantly reassures me. So my anxiety also plays up when I move to new places until I feel settled. And also when I come in for the first time to the room, if I've been out, I do like a scan. You know, I'm managing my arachnophobia. And knowing that there's somebody that I can go to, or knowing that it's okay for me to knock and ask somebody for help, really, really soothes me and makes me feel at ease, and it really makes me feel at home in the places that I'm staying. So it's just little things like that as well. And I know that's something so small and it can seem so ridiculous, but when you're fearful of something, or when you're out your comfort zone, to just know that you've got people around you that are willing to help you and willing to support you is really nice. And what you will find is when you travel and when you meet people and when you're in hostels and homestays, the people are just usually the nicest of people, because they want to meet people. They're really open-minded. It's not like a hotel where you'd have to knock on the opposite room and they probably wouldn't be reciprocal of you knocking. But here, they are just so nice. So it's just finding little ways and little things like that you can help manage any anxieties or fears or being out your comfort zone when you travel. So that was number one, do your research. Number two is have fun and do the stuff that you would never usually do. Embrace the culture and meet new people. So one of the things when you travel, obviously you want to just meet people and do things that you would never usually do. And a lot of that requires being out your comfort zone. It requires you, again, doing some research and being open-minded and learning about the culture of the place that you are in. So for example, when I went to Cambodia, it really shocked me that I knew nothing about the war before I went to Cambodia. Sorry, Vietnam. Cambodia was the genocide. So both examples. So in Vietnam, I knew nothing about the Vietnamese war, which I was astounded by, and it runs so deep in the culture and the history of Vietnam. So I took, obviously you don't have to do this, but I took my time to watch a documentary on Netflix around the Vietnamese War. I went to the war museums, and I really took my time to learn about such a huge part of their history, because every single local person that you meet has been impacted or is still being impacted by the war and what happened. So it's just kind of showing an appreciation and a gratitude and a respect for the culture and the place that you're in. And the same as when I went to Cambodia. So I'd studied the genocide in university, and when I went over, I went to, again, the museum that they have. I was reading about the genocide, because when you're in taxis with local people, or when you're just around local people, it's so ingrained in their history, this massive trauma, this massive thing that they went through. And actually, it's just so incredible to understand it and then really be able to appreciate the deep sense of gratitude that they have, how these people still smile, how these people are still so grateful, how these people still get up every single day and live with purpose and happiness, and after witnessing something like and going through something what they did. So it's just really important, I find, to understand the culture of where you are. And the same applies for Bali, Indonesia, you know, speaking to local people, understanding the local culture. When the ceremonies on, understanding and asking, what are the ceremonies about, and taking your time to really appreciate it. Otherwise, you just end up coming over and you just end up gravitating towards Western things, and you just end up gravitating towards people who speak English. And actually, the whole part of being in places like this is to submerge into the culture and see things that you wouldn't see in England, and meet people and have conversations that you wouldn't have with people in England, or wherever it is that you're coming from, Australia, New Zealand, wherever in the world. So just have fun with it and do the things that you would never do. So hike mountains, go and see waterfalls, go to temples, go to cultural offerings that they have, whatever it is that feels fun for you. Go out there and do it. And meeting new people is a great way to do that, because what you're going to find is they're going to invite you to things that you may not know about or may never have thought to do. Like, I wouldn't have thought to go snorkeling in Nusa Badina, but I got asked to go and I said yes, and it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible, swimming with the manta rays, being with the fish, being in the ocean. And I get really bad seasick as well. So on that journey, what's really interesting is when we came out on the boat ride, I instantly got motion sickness and seasickness. And again, I could have just been like, I'm so done. Like, I'm going to wait on the island. Like, I don't want to go on the second boat to start the snorkeling. But I never. I got on the boat and I went snorkeling, and I came out my comfort zone, and I, took a tablet, had the sugar, all the things that I needed to do. And I had the most incredible experience. So it's just about coming out of your comfort zone and doing the things that, even if you think, I don't know if that actually interests me, just if there's a group of people going from your hostel, or a group of people going that you know, just tag along with them and see what it's like. Tip number 3 is pack light, because you don't need 10 million thousand things, and no one really cares over here about how you look. So when you solo travel, literally no one gives a shit. It's probably just you, when you first get over here, that will start to care. So everyone wears these, you can't see it, but people on YouTube can see, these like gorgeous little elephant pants, which are the most comfortable things in the whole world. So people just like walk around in those like cami tops. In Thailand, I was in tie-dye t-shirts from the market with Homer Simpson on. Like, I literally did not care. No one even cares about shaving your armpits. Like, literally no one gives a shit when you travel about what you look like. So I think coming with that mindset as well of only packing the things that you need, and really that can be really difficult, but when you get a backpack, it really forces you to look at what you need and think about what you're actually going to need. It's not about fashion, it's not about what you look like, it's just about comfort, it's about exploring, and then it's about having like 1 or 2 outfits that if you go for dinner, you can just throw on and it makes you feel a little bit fresh and a little bit cute. So that's another tip that I would say, because I know some people travel over here and they bring suitcases and they bring makeup and they bring all the things, and obviously you can bring all of that if you want to. If you're on holiday, it's different, but if you're traveling with that intention, it's so liberating, and honestly it's so freeing. And you'll come over to wherever you're traveling to and you'll end up in local markets and you'll end up seeing elephant pants or floaty shirts, and you'll just embrace where you are, because comfort in like the heat and the humidity is the most important thing. So you will end up just wearing the things that feel comfortable and feel good. So leave space to buy things over here that you wouldn't buy or wear in England or wherever you're coming from. So number 4 is always have a portable charger so you can feel safe and connected, and don't carry all your cash and your cards with you. This is like a pretty self-explanatory one, but getting these things like chargers, is spare leads, is really, really important, because you know, you're going to be having days out and trips out. You might be on a moped, you might be doing all the things. And if your battery goes, that's again going to be something that's important for your safety. So just doing these things you can to ease your anxieties, make you feel more comfortable about the journey, make you feel more comfortable when you're out, is really important. Don't carry all your cash, don't carry all your cards. And that just comes from a space of like, don't be super naive and think, oh my God, everyone's so amazing and super friendly over here. Yes, I've just said that I feel so safe over in Asia and Indonesia, but there is still people that pickpocket, there is still people, like everywhere in the world that you go, there is still people that if they see your purse full of cash, they will want to take it. So just always be mindful. It's just about being mindful. It's just about thinking before you leave. You don't want to leave your villa with like all this money, and don't leave your stuff lying around. If you're in a hostel, always make sure that you have your stuff locked up. Always make sure you have a lock on your suitcase or your backpack, because if you are in a hostel and you're in a shared dormitory, you're going to be leaving your stuff lying around, so you want to make sure that nobody can get into it. But again, I've never ever had an experience where anyone stole off me, anyone's robbed anything, anyone's took anything, never. But I do know that it does happen, so it's just being mindful. Number 5, be smart and stay vigilant. Don't leave drinks lying around. Don't walk down dark alleys, typical stuff that applies. But, you know, sometimes we can forget because we just get so submerged. And again, I know I just said that I feel so safe over here, but there's still certain roads that Google Maps might try and take me down if I'm walking in Canggu, for example. And I'll just be like, I'll just continue walking and then I'll just find another route to get there. So it's just being vigilant around stuff like that. If you go out, if you're going especially to full moon parties in Thailand, just making sure your drinks are safe, making sure that you're just watching your drinks. It's just literally common sense. I feel like the places I've been in, none of that feels like it applies, because I've been in restaurants and like local coffee shops. But I do know when I went traveling in Thailand and when I went to like islands where it was more party, when I was traveling a few years ago, it was definitely being vigilant around like drinks and stuff. So also try a mix. Next tip, try a mix of shared rooms and solo rooms. So again, if you're coming traveling on your own, female dorms are available in most places. When I traveled Asia, I done a mix of both and it was absolutely fine. And book places with good reviews or places that have good security. So the villa that I was in Canggu, I had a private room with a lock on, and then the door to get into that space had a private lock. So the homestay that I'm in now in Ubud has a main door that you go through, and then your bedroom has a lock, and the people at the homestay are always here, so there's always people about, which I think is really, really nice. And just mixing it up so you can meet different people. So really think about what's your intention for traveling. What is it that you want to do? If you work, can you work in cafes? If you're doing calls, where are the spaces that you're going to do calls? Because that is going to determine whether you need a solo room or you need a shared dorm. You can mix it up and do both. You can have some days where you're in the solo room, you're having a bit more luxury, you're having a bit more privacy, and then when you want to meet people, you check into a dorm room, whether it's female or it's mixed, and that's a really nice way to meet people. So it just depends, you know, on your energy, who you are as a person, what experience you want when you travel. All of these things are important. And then tip number 7 is carry something like a pepper spray if it made you feel safer. Now again, for me, I just put this in the list of things. I've never done this, never even been an option, never felt like I needed to. However, I've met people on my travels who have done that. I've met people on my travels who only book taxis through apps. That's another really important thing. So over in Indonesia, they have something called Grab and Gojek, which is essentially like a Uber for taxi drivers and people who pick you up on scooters, and you leave reviews. So everything is tracked. So again, I know a lot of women who only book through the actual app, rather than just being picked up on the side of the street or a taxi man coming over to them, because I know there's some women that have felt like they can be a little bit inappropriate. So it's just figuring out what works for you and just being super mindful and just doing things that help you feel relaxed whilst you're on your travels. And I think that's the most important thing, really. So in terms of anxieties and mental blocks before going, I do tend to have anxiety before I get on the flight. And again, I think it's just because it seems like it's so far away. And I got this when I landed in Bangkok, the first time I ever travelled. I remember getting to my room and I remember thinking, what the fuck have I done? Like, I am so far away from home. Was this a good idea? Like, why have I just travelled all of this way? And the next morning I woke up and I was like, no, I'm rested. I feel good. So when I traveled to Bali this time, I didn't have that, oh my God, what have I done? This is the worst mistake. But I knew that I was going to feel anxious, because you feel like you're 1,000,000 miles away from home because you've been traveling with the time difference and the jet lag. It makes it feel like you are so far away from everybody, your comfort zone, the people that you love. And then I always find I just wake up the next morning and I just get used to my surroundings. So I will go for a little walk, I'll go for a coffee, I'll unpack my things, and it makes me just feel a lot more grounded. And I also just remind myself that I'm literally a flight away. If I want to go home at any single point, I just book a flight and I go. So that's always something I say to people, is just make sure you have those funds. If you book a one-way ticket, you need your funds to obviously get home. If you book a return flight and it's 3 months down the line and you get to where you are, just make sure you have money to get a ticket back home, and then you're always covered. If you go somewhere like, let's say you go to Cambodia, you don't like it, you get a flight somewhere else, you go to Thailand, you go to Vietnam, you move about. If you come to Bali, you go to Canggu, you don't like it, you try Uluwatu, you try Ubud. So you always know that you have freedom to do whatever it is that you want to do. And I think that's why not having such a strict plan when you travel really helps that anxiety and allows for a lot of freedom and a lot of flow, and for you to just feel into where it is that you want to be. So that's a really important thing that helps me as well. In terms of mental blocks, I don't really have any. I think I felt anxious coming to Bali, and I think I felt a little bit more apprehensive because of the situation at home, because of how my relationship was, how I was feeling, the things that I was going through. My life just felt like I had no direction. And one of the things that was really on my mind was this notion of, am I running away from my problems going to Bali? That I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to be that person who's running away and is going to come back in X amount of weeks and just feel like I'm stuck in this simulation of going right back to the same space. Like, that terrified me so much. So I was a little bit apprehensive booking Bali, mainly for that reason. But the change and the clarity and the connection and the direction, even in a week of being here, was incredible. So I know that I can't go back and be the same because I'm not the same woman who got on the plane. So it just isn't going to happen that way. And I think also not really knowing what change was going to happen and how that was going to impact where I was at in my relationship, which was another big thing. But I knew for me that Bali was healing. I knew for me that Bali was what I needed. I needed that space. I needed to heal. I needed to come back to myself. It was so crucial. So Bali for me brought up a lot of worry around what's going to happen as a result of that. You know, is this selfish to do this? And just sitting with it a lot and just realising that actually no, it's not. And whatever change comes from that and whatever happens from me going it's okay. It's absolutely okay. And now was the biggest permission slip because of for so long other people causing me a lot of pain and a lot of discomfort. And I think actually booking that ticket was like a huge permission slip of things that are about to change. And it's no longer about you, it's about me. It's no longer about listening and dealing with your shit, because that's your stuff. And I'm giving you that back. That stuff that you've put onto me, that stuff that you've projected onto me for so long, I'm now giving you it back. And I'm going and I'm doing me, and whatever consequence comes from that. So that sounds like, I don't know if that sounds a little bit brutal, but without giving all of the context and talking about it, it's just, that's what Bali was. And that's what I gave myself permission to do. So that felt good. So yeah, I just think, if you're feeling called to travel and you feel like you have any blocks, just even with like money and stuff, I know it sounds, so what you need to figure out, so when I went traveling the first time, what I figured out was, what are my bills in the UK? Bearing in mind I had a lot of funds saved, so I was just working like non-stop on my PT business. And I remember I had like this chunk of cash, and people were saying to me, you know, maybe you should like move out and go and rent your own place. Like, you've got all these savings. And I remember just waking up one morning thinking, fuck, I don't want to do that. Went online, booked a one-way ticket to go to fly to Cambodia. And I just texted my mum and dad and I was like, just let you know, I've booked a one-way ticket and I go on New Year's Day. And everyone was like, Jesus. Here she goes. But for me, that just felt like what I wanted to spend my money on, and it was the best thing that I ever done. So it's like figuring out from when you go, what is it that you need to keep covered. So at that time I had a car, I had, you know, certain bills that needed to be paid, and like now, certain bills that need to be paid, that need to be covered. And I just, as long as they were covered, I just went. But I think the thing for me as well is the thing that I always hold on to and know deep down is that it'll all work itself out. Like when I come back, the money will replenish. It'll come back. I'm able to work online now. So that's also like really important for me. But if the first time when I traveled, I never worked at all, I just came for 3 months. I completely left work, left my business as a PT, and I was like, I'm going. And I just came back and I just rebuilt, or not even rebuilt. It's only 3 months. I just kind of picked up where I left off and it was fine. So I think that if you can do that, and then you can travel, even if it's only for a month, or you can come away for 3 weeks, or you can do a week somewhere, it doesn't matter how long. If you can fund that, then do it. Honestly, the biggest thing I'm going to say is just please fucking book the ticket and do it. Like, it's like when I say about the retreat, just if you're feeling called to come on the self-love retreat, please fucking do it. If you're back and forth and about money, and I understand cost of living, I understand all of that stuff, I get it. But what you will gain from coming to things like this will be fucking invaluable. What do you think you're going to remember when you die, on your deathbed, when you're talking about your stories? What do you think people are going to talk about at your funeral? The shit that you're doing every single day, and the crumbs that you're giving yourself, or the fact that you get to live, the fact that you telling your children, I went to this self-love retreat, telling your kids I travelled on my own for 3 weeks and I done this. Look at these pictures of mum. Like, look at these pictures of me when I was travelling. Look at these things that I done. The experiences, the connections, the people that you meet, like, it's so invaluable. And we get so hung up on the money and so scared about the money. And I get it, I get why, but if you live your life in that scarcity, you're just going to miss so many opportunities to truly understand what living is, and to grow and to experience and to feel and to laugh and to witness Mother Earth in just all of her beauty and all of these different cultures. And it's just, it really is amazing. It's amazing the gift that you give yourself when you do things like this. So if there's any money anxieties or any blocks around that, just book it, is all I can say. Just book it, make it work, and do it in a way that feels good for you, but definitely do the thing, because you will not regret it. And then just the last little thing I want to talk about is traveling from the perspective of being in a relationship. So one of the things that's really important, or a few things that are really important, is making time for each other. So one of the things that's really important to understand is that when you're traveling, so much is going to be happening for you. So much change, meeting new people, experiencing all of these new things. So if your partner can travel with you, amazing. But if your partner doesn't want to travel with you, or you feel like you just want to go on your own, like I've already said, please don't wait for permission to go. Please don't feel like if you're in a relationship that's like the end of the world, you can never do things on your own, because you very much can. So, like, you know, there's permission for you to be able to do that. But I think one of the biggest things is really, where was I going? I've lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, understanding that you're going to change, and the dynamic potentially may shift when you're traveling, in terms of your partner could be at home doing the things and you're experiencing all of these new things. And a lot of the time it's hard to put that into words, especially if you're doing a lot of spiritual practices. If you travel, it's hard to put that into words over a phone. And it's hard to even just communicate the things that you're feeling and witnessing that are so personal for you, that are so amazing. All of these amazing people that you're meeting, it can be hard to then go back and bring your partner in on that experience, and do it in a way that's not going to incite, like, not jealousy in a bad way, but jealousy or a little bit of frustration, because you're doing all of these amazing things. And it can kind of be that feeling of feeling left out, or feeling like they may no longer be relevant. So it's just like holding that in your awareness for your partner. And if that does come up, just know that that's okay, because, you know, it's different. It's a different dynamic when you travel, and that sense of independence can be a little bit jarring at times for people. You know, if you're in a relationship where you do everything together, you have your routines, you have your friends, they know they know all of the things about you, in the sense of, like, they know where you like to hang out, they know what you like to do, they know your routine and your patterns. And then all of a sudden you go off and you travel, and they see all of these different sides to you, this happiness, this independence. You're talking about these new things, you're growing, you're developing as a person. That can be a little bit jarring. But I think if you're in the right relationship, you're able to get through it, and you're able to bring your partner in on the journey. So you can invite them to meet you out here at a certain point. So if there's somewhere that you would love to holiday together, you can ask them if they want to meet you and fly over. So when I first travelled, Luke flew over to Bali and he met me at the end of the travel, which was really nice. He met me for 10 days. And then we just kind of had like a holiday to end my time travelling, which was really nice. So there's ways that you can bring your partner in, but also just holding these other emotions that may become present is interesting. And also, if you travel together, noticing how the experience can also be very personal for you, and is the things that you want to do that maybe you don't want to do with your partner. How can you lean into practices? How can you lean into things that you want to do that fill your cup up, that serve you independently as a person? And then also have these beautiful joint experiences where you travel together and you experience things together. So a few little tips are, making sure that you have space and time to FaceTime. I personally feel like with the time difference, I find it easier to just FaceTime, and I find it better to just FaceTime for like an hour and a half. Have that one block of time, and then I probably won't speak to him for the rest of the day, because with the time difference at the moment, it's not easy to be able to do that. So that feels really good. Checking in with each other when we wake up, sending each other just like random videos, text messages, pictures from our days. So when the other person wakes up, they kind of have visual imagery of what I guess I've been up to in the day. So Luke might send me pictures of or videos of him working out in the gym. He might send me videos of him in the car with music on. I might send him videos of the rice fields, or just things I've been doing about my day that have really been beautiful and symbolic for me, and I will send them to him. So that's another really nice way that you can connect. Another really nice way is remain in that intimacy. So what are ways that you can keep that intimacy present in a relationship? What are ways that you can keep that sexual connection there between both of you? Think about ways that you can do that. So whether there's loads of things that you can do, whether it's FaceTime calls, whether it's videos, whether it's pictures, whether it's sending text messages, whatever it is, there's ways that you can keep that alive. And I personally find that distance is something that ignites that for me. So it feels easier, and it feels, I guess, more of a turn on when there is distance. So, keeping that, just because you're not physically together doesn't mean there's ways that you can't connect and keep that sexual connection alive. And then also ways to keep that connection alive through the pictures and the FaceTime calls. Even little things like, if you both like reading, is there a book that you can read whilst you travel, and a book that your partner can read at home? Is there a season that you're both like watching that you can watch together? I don't know with the time difference. Or you just watch the episode, and then when you come on the call or when you connect, you talk about that episode. On the weekend, can you watch movies together? Can you eat at the same time and have a Zoom call? So if it's breakfast for your partner and it's dinner for you, is the ways that you can keep that space and really have that connection. So there's loads of ways that you can keep connection when you travel. And I think it doesn't just always have to be this, I'm leaving my partner and I'm going off and doing my own thing. I just think that's like such a small-minded way of thinking. And I just think, for me, the healthiest of a healthy relationship for me personally feels like being able to go and do what I want to do and what he wants to do, and having that space and time to grow, and knowing that it's okay to not want to do everything together. And that's something else that's really interesting in my relationship, because Luke is in a way the opposite of that. So he would never go off and travel on his own. He's very much enjoys being and doing things with me when he's not busy with like work and stuff. Like, he likes to do that, or he's not in the gym or with his mates or whatever. But in terms of traveling, and he wouldn't go off and do something on his own. But one of the things he did like to do was, when he was stressed, he likes to check into a hotel, and he likes to turn his phone off, and he likes to order room service, and he likes to just go, and that's his way to like decompress when he's highly stressed. Just get out of the environment where we used to live and just go and be able to do that. And that was something I was like super cool with. I was like, yeah, you go and do that. Like, you go and have your night, you go and decompress, check in with me in the morning, have your space, because when you live with somebody, sometimes you don't get that space. So again, that's something that he liked to do, and I was super open to that. I was like, yeah, you go and do that, that's fine. And that always just give me a night on my own to have like my own space. So yes, there's ways that you can manage that in a relationship, and that feels like it's a healthy relationship for me to have that dynamic and that balance. So that's pretty much it for this episode. It's kind of been a bit more of a practical episode, not so much about emotions and stuff and all of the juicy stuff that we talk about, but someone requested it, so I thought I'd just put it up. And given that a lot of you are resonating with what's happening at the moment, I just thought it might be a good little episode to share. And hopefully it inspires you to book that flight ticket, to book that hotel, to book onto the Greece retreat if you feel the nudge to come. So just to give it a little bit or some more details about that. So I am doing a self-love retreat in Greece in May in Mykonos. I have hired a private villa, and it is just a wholesome self-love retreat for 5 days. So within the 5 days, we are really going to connect to ourselves. We are going to really work on our self-love. We are really going to go into any blocks that might be present for you to feel like you're able to fully grasp and feel that self-love. It's just going to be a really beautiful healing experience for 5 days. I have Matt Gunn flying over, who is a breathwork facilitator. He is going to do a breathwork session. We are going to co-facilitate a breathwork session. And we are going to be connecting to inner child, connecting to joy. And it really is just a beautiful space for you to have that time for yourself, that deep healing time where you can rest and you can just really be in joy and presence and self-love. And you are held and you are with a group of like-minded women, and you step onto that plane about to go home and you feel like you're a different woman. You feel like something has shifted inside you. Whatever it is that you brought to that self-love retreat, whatever it is that you wanted to heal, whatever your intention is, I know that you're going to get on that plane and you're going to feel like you're different, and going forward things get to be different. So it's going to be so beautiful. I am in Bali buying little trinkets for your goodie bags. Every woman who comes gets a goodie bag. It's all inclusive. You are taken care of. I am just going to be holding the space for you, and I am so bloody excited. So if you are interested, the link for that is in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, the link is below for the self-love retreat. There are payment plans. The only other thing that you need to pay for is your flight. Once you get off that flight, everything is taken care of by me. So it is the ultimate gift to yourself, and you deserve it. And I hope this, in some way, this episode, if you are feeling drawn to it, has inspired you to just do the thing and know that life is too short. Life is really, really too short. So if you're wanting to work on your self-love, if you've wanted to go to a retreat, if you wanted to do the things, just please do it, because it is going to reward you and gift you back in so many ways. Like Bali has for me. It has just rewarded me and given me so much that I didn't even know I was going to get, and I didn't even know I needed. I came with an intention, and the healing that I have done has just been, I'm a different woman in 3 weeks. I was a different woman in a week. It's incredible when you give yourself that permission, what unfolds and what the universe gives you back. So yes, on that note, I am going to go. So have a wonderful rest of your day, whatever you're doing, listening to this. And thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I shall be back next week with another one.